Well, it's Tuesday Wrestling, and we all know what that means. That means we get to review NWA Powerrr, AEW Dark, and NXT 2.0. In NWA Powerrr, we have, of course, the final go-home show before this weekend's Alwayz Ready. AEW Dark only had 6 matches, were really okay, but also we got NXT 2.0 with the fallout ever since In Your House. Now, to be fair, I did not witness that, but I did see certain things that took place. But also, we got some news updates that I need to share with all of you. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Jay, right here. So, let's begin with NWA Powerrr. As you know, this is the final go-home show before Alwayz Ready. We opened up with, of course, Kyle Davis along with Tyrus. Now, Tyrus, as you know, has released a brand new book. He decided to give a free book to a fan, but once again, being the slime ball that he's always been, he decided to break the kid's heart. So basically, once again, but however, he's avoiding the bigger issue that he's dealing with. As you know, he has a slam challenge. He doesn't want to talk about it because, as you know, apparently he did have a slam challenge where he has to put the NWA World title on the line, the NWA World Television title on the line against Mims. Now, speaking our first match, we have the most professional wrestler, Brian Myers, taking on Nick Aldis. Now, it's no secret that Brian Myers was sent by Matt Cardona to soften off Nick Aldis before their match in Alwayz Ready. Now, it's still unclear whether what's going to happen with Matt Cardona. As you know, he received surgery after being injured at GCW Downward Spiral. He did claim that he's going to be there, but as you know, we were supposed to have a steel cage match, and of course it was going to integrate into a death match by request by the so-called death match king. To be honest with you, he's not the death match king, because death match king is you didn't be in more than one match. He only had one match involved. But however, Brian Myers tried to play it smart, but it had no avail. As you know, the National Treasure is really that good. But he put him away with the Texas Cloverleaf, and he tapped out. But as a direct message, we know for a fact, Nick Aldis is confident enough to believe he will regain Sweet Charlotte and bring her home. Now, our next match is the Tyrus Slam Challenge. Now, it's no secret to me that this is a match that Tyrus picked up, as you know, trying to make up for what took place with Nims. He had KC Rocks who showed up, and of course that match ended with him getting struck in the heart by Tyrus. But Nims shows up to teach him a lesson and all that. However, the whole thing went into a different twist. We thought Scion had issues towards Tyrus. It appears that he finally embraced his dad, as you know, that old man who never shuts up. We're talking about Austin Idol. Looks like he is involved with the Austin Idol, with the Idolmania sports management. So that is most likely the case that's going to be. Now, our next match we have is Misa Tate and Kylie King taking on Kenzie Page and Camille. Now, keep in mind, in this particular match, and Alwayz Ready, Camille will be putting the Burke, aka the NWA Women's Championship, on the line against Kylie King. Now, Camille made it clear from the very beginning, ever since becoming the NWA Women's World Champion, that she wants to be a one-time champion. Basically, hold it as long as possible. So now she has to face against Kylie King, who has been on a tear. Now, I know some of you who've seen her in AEW probably saying, why did she stay with AEW? Well, she was an extra. And I'm assuming now that, she decided not to be an extra anymore. Now she's kicking ass in various locations. We know she's been with Mission Pro Wrestling, CCW down in Florida, now with NWA. I have to say she's making a name for herself in this way. Camille, I have to say, with her tag partner, Kenzie Page, was a very unusual because she doesn't work well with others. But I think things would have gone away if it wasn't for Kenzie Page, who misfired on Camille, allowing for the match to win by Kylie King. But the real question is, should Camille be more concerned with the threat of Kylie King? To be honest with you, it's going to be yes for the fans and no on Camille. That's how I see it. But we'll see what happens in Alwayz Ready. So I'm kind of excited. Hope everybody is. I hope I get the chance to see it. So right now, let's move on with AEW Dark. Okay, AEW Dark, 6 matches. Opening match, we have Aaron Solo of The Factory taking on the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. Now, I give credit for Aaron Solo, tried to take him out early, tried to be smarter in this one. But when it comes to the Murder Hawk himself, that's impossible unless you're guys like Jon Moxley or another big, huge dude or Hangman Page, whoever were strong enough to defeat him. Aaron Solo did not was successful. However, he suffered the end of the blackout, and 1, 2, 3, everyone dies. Now, our next match, we got the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, on against Steven Andrews. Now, I don't know who this guy is, but it was still unusual for me as a fan to see Christopher Daniels coming back in the ring. We know that he's the head of the talent relations in AEW, but he has been wrestling outside of WWE, most likely with Defy. But I don't know what's the significance of him. I don't know if they're thinking about bringing back Frankie Kazarian and Christopher Daniels as a tag team. Basically, no more SCU. As you know, as a tag team, they were known as The Addiction. So, could we possibly see a possible return of The Addiction? Most likely. But the match went pretty well until Christopher Daniels put him in the in his submission, in his finisher. 1, 2, 3. It was done. Our next match, we have Sky Blue taking on The Problem, Marina Shafir. Now, you know how Marina Shafir's been on the terror as well. Last time we saw her, she came up short against TBS champion Jade Cargill, all thanks to the baddies getting themselves involved. But sooner or later, we know Marina Shafir will get her hands on either the women's title or the TBS title. But however, she finished off Sky Blue with a very interesting, unique submission where she grabbed the arm and the leg at the same time. I don't know exactly what it was, but it looks more like it was effective. As you know, she is an MMA background, so that kind of fits into the whole thing. Now, more on women's. Now, next match we have is Serpentico taking on Ortiz. Now, as you know, Ortiz, he's been on a tear, and he's preparing for his match against Jericho to get his take off his hair, but he has to go through the resident snake himself, Serpentico. But unfortunately, sorry, Serpentico, you're out. But he's in the interview with Shivani. He seems like he's ready for this particular match. But the real question does remain: will Ortiz walk out as the victor, or will he be bald? That's the obvious question. Next up, we have Toni Storm taking on Zeta Zhang. As you know, if you guys know who Zeta Zhang is, she's been around the block, especially in WWE. Toni Storm, as you know, she is still well established, but it was her finisher to finish off Zeta Zhang, and boom, she won in that. Now, our next match, we have a trios action. We have Dark Order, consistent of Alex Reynolds, John Silver, and Ten, taking on Max Caster along with the Gun Club, or as we call them, the Ass Boys, Austin and Colton Gunn. But like any other type, they're becoming like maybe the fan favorites for their obnoxious ways. Not to mention they use the clutches on the match to allow them to win. This was a very disappointing loss for Dark Order, but a good momentum for Caster and the Ass Boys. So basically, that's what took place. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's move on with our final review, NXT 2.0. Okay, NXT 2.0. But before I proceed, I want to say this to everybody. I did not see In Your House. I was busy with other things since I'm on vacation at the moment, spending time with family, going around places, you can see. But I have been keeping up what's been going on Twitter. As you know, I was happy for a few matches. Like, for example, Braun Breaker retained the title. That was one. The Creed brothers finally become the NXT Tag Team Champions. I was disappointed that Toxic Attraction still is still the NXT both women's and women's tag team champion. Carmelo Hayes won the TNT, the North American title back, so that sort of thing gets in. So that kind of explains the whole thing. But I was pretty much curious what's going to take place in the fallout. So let's get into it. Now, as you know, Carmelo Hayes, as you know, he's back, happy as a clam that he finally became the North American champion. But however, Solo Sikoa, who has been in pursuit of this title ever since Cameron Grimes was the champion, as you know, Carmelo Hayes wasn't going to allow anybody to take that title but him. But Solo Sikoa felt he has a stake in claim in this. But Carmelo Hayes, he's proving that he's not a champion. He'd rather not face a guy like him, but that's a mistake. But one way or the other, out of the blue, Grayson Waller, the most despised person in NXT, shows up saying that Solo Sikoa had his chance, that it's time for him to go. But Solo Sikoa, who is not afraid to be in a big match, but it turned out that it was supposed to be a tag match, but he said he was willing to go alone. So that's what's going to be. Now, I don't know how this one is. I felt it would have been better off to keep both families, like Gato and Tony D's family, at war with each other. But having Tony D win and having Legato, and I forgot that was one match, that was a match that I kind of called into question. But the way I see it, if you guys ever seen movies too much, you can tell like there's always that one person that rather be its own boss. And that kind of felt with Legato. I feel that Santos is that guy who's more comfortable being the boss. So Tony D'Angelo put him in a match with Nathan Frazier. So that kind of puts him on edge, and of course, he has no other choice but to do it. So that's how it goes. Now, our next match, we have Josh Briggs along with Fallon Henley and Brooks Jensen dealing with Von Wagner. Now, keep in mind, Wagner was responsible for the attack on Brooks Jensen because, of course, I don't know, every time you look at Sophia Cromwell in a way that felt like kind of strange, she sends that big brute. However, the match was pretty good. It's a battle of the big men. But however, I have to say Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs walked out as the smart one. Think about it. Is Von Wagner smart? The answer is no. Basically, the idea is when Brooks Jensen had the cast, Von Wagner used that to dismantle it. But what he didn't realize, he removed the cast, tossed it into to Briggs, and whacked him with them. 1, 2, 3, it's over. So they basically playing a mind games to Von Wagner. Of course, Stone and Cromwell were beside themselves. They can't believe they lost. I'm sure they're going to try to get revenge against Briggs for what he's done, but I'm sure they'll be ready for that. Now, our next up we have is, of course, as you know, Thea Hale has now officially signed with Chase U to go to college. Chase U is very happy, especially Andre Chase. But of course, Pre-Deli shows up saying they want to join. But Bodie Hayward decided to kick them down on their luck. As you know, they're no longer the NXT tag team champions. I mean, if they were the NXT tag team champions, I feel they would have gotten their chances to go with Chase U. I think that's something that Wade Barrett should have known. You know, it's simple. If you want someone with a championship in your university, you know for a fact that is what you need. And I think that's what happened. Now, our match between Nathan Frazier and Santos. This one, it was more awkward in a way that the way they're still telling the story. Santos, who's been, like I said, used to being the boss. That's always been his case, but much like everything else, big ego gets in the way, that sort of thing. But Santos lost the match big time. So basically, it's like, I don't know if Tony D is trying to play, like, you know, mind games with them. I don't know. But we'll see where they're going to go with that. Now, as you remember, Xia Quinn lost to Wesley. He mentioned on the interview we will have a rematch with him. He said that match that he had with Wesley, he just got lucky. But did he really got lucky, or did he have the advantage? But he does hope that he wants to see Sanga at his corner. That kind of tells us that maybe Wesley took the advice from Sanga last week to heart. So we'll see about that. Now our next thing we have is the Braun Breaker throwing out a fantastic promo. As you know, he was successful in retaining the title, but he decides it's time for him to find a much suitable challenger to face. And to our surprise, it was none other than Apollo Crews, a former NXT roster member. As you know, he hasn't been with that brand since 2017. I think it's going to be a good match. But I cannot recall if Apollo Crews was ever an NXT champion. If you guys out there know if he ever was, just please leave a comment so I can see that. But yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see. Now, speaking of Joe Gacy, once again, his little propaganda continues on. Looks like that he still has the work done, but he said he doesn't need the title. So the real question is, what does he in store? And I think many fans are probably asking, who the hell are those guys with the hoods? You know, I'm kind of curious. But we'll find out soon enough at some point. Now, let's get to our big match. We have the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament, the finals. We have Tiffany Stratton versus Roxanne Perez. Now, this was a pretty interesting match. Now, Tiffany Stratton was not originally part of the tournament from the start. She actually stepped up when Nikita Alliance was pulled out due to an injury. But Fallon Henley was about to take a bye, but Tiffany Stratton felt like she was taking the easy way road. So that's the kind of thing. And then now that she's facing Roxanne, she thinks that Roxanne was making the dumb choices, basically, where she's traveling 10 hours from one part of Texas to Houston to train under Booker T. So she thinks there's something wrong with her. But Roxanne, you know, if you guys knew her outside of WWE before that, she's been an extraordinary wrestler. That's why they called her the Prodigy. And that kind of fits in. Now, some fans would have thought, Tiffany Stratton was going to win, but it's always the smaller person that walked out until Roxanne puts out Code Rock, and boom, she becomes the first winner of the NXT Women's Breakout Tournament. And of course, Cora Jade comes out to congratulate her friend. But however, the celebration was cut short by the threat and jealousy of Mandy Rose. Now, keep in mind, Mandy Rose did claim that they run the entire NXT women's division, but however, they will not tolerate someone who believes that they're taking the spotlight. Basically, Roxanne won this match, but they will not tolerate that. However, this became clear that it's becoming a brawl, but luckily Indy Hartwell shows up to giving a helping hand. So we could possibly see Roxanne get a future title shot, but the question is, when will that happen? But I wouldn't mind seeing Cora Jade and Indy Hartwell teaming up to be the face both Jay-Z Jane and Gigi Dolan for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. That's something we definitely got to see. Now, speaking of what happened with Roxanne, as you know, in Your House, Wendy Choo came up short to defeat Mandy Rose. She was about to give her interview. Tiffany Stratton complaining and bitching about how Roxanne cheated. But of course, once again, Wendy Choo decided to get once again into the face of Tiffany Stratton, and she tossed her slippery right in her face. So we could see a Rick Kendall feud between them. So that is something we definitely got to see. Now, our next match, we were supposed to have a tag team match between Pretty Deadly along with Bodie Hayward and Andre Chase. However, Bodie Hayward was attacked. We all know who that is. It was Pretty Deadly. So Andre Chase went on his own. But Bodie Hayward, who's trying to show how much heart he still has, he had to go out there. But the hell, who's being a good team player, trying to tell him that he's not in good condition. But the hell decided to play the team player, saying, I'll step up for him. Regardless that she was not in the match. But however, the match ended in Pretty Deadly's favor. So we could see a rivalry between Pretty Deadly and the Chase University. Now, our next match, we have women's action. We have, of course, Tatum Paxley taking on Alba Fire. I thought this match was pretty good. I think we're seeing Alba Fire, who's been on a tear ever since then, been repackaged. And I think we're going to see more things coming out of her. So she picked up a very good victory when she applied the Swanton onto Tatum Paxley, and of course she shook her hands. But however, she was viciously attacked out of nowhere by Lash Legend. Now, on an exclusive content on the YouTube page, Lash Legend felt that Alba Fire has had her time. It's time for the spotlight to go to Lash Legend. Basically, that she feels like it's time to move on. It's all about the ego. That's how I see it. Now, as you know, Diamond Mine, on the other hand, we're celebrating the fact that finally the Creed brothers are the NXT Tag Team Champions. However, they had a surprise visit from Malik Blade and Idris Enofe. So it appears that, I don't know, the Creed brothers decided, we're going to give them tag titles. But it seems that Roderick Strong is against it. Now, keep in mind, I'm sure the Creed brothers wouldn't mind giving them the tag titles a shot. Reason is, they have proven time and time again they are a much effective team, and they have been one of the most strongest teams. I mean, look what happened in the Gauntlet match. That was amazing. And they want to prove that once again in that fashion, that they are a dominating tag team. So why not? And Roderick Strong has a problem with it, but it appears like certain members of Diamond Mine are like, what's wrong with it? You have to be strong. So we don't know. We could see things fall apart for Roderick Strong. That is the clear thing. Now, for the last couple of weeks, we have witnessed this video package from this Italian guy. We don't know who it was. Apparently, we saw the name Giovanni Vinci. But when I saw the face, we all recognize who that is. And that is Fabian Eichner. So it looks more like, from the perspective, he was repackaged, re-adventuring. And you probably ask yourself, is he really Italian? Obvious question, yes. But I don't mind. Now, our main event. We thought we were going to have a handicap match, but no. It was Grayson Waller and Trick Williams, Carmel Hayes, along with Trick Williams, versus Solo and his tag partner, Apollo Crews. Now, I did not see that one coming, but you saw the look on Hayes and Waller's face. It's like, uh-oh, we're in trouble. That's what it was. And I have to say, I like how it ended, because it did not show Solo Sikoa pinning Hayes, but he did took him out long enough for Apollo Crews to pick up a victory onto Waller. But however, I wouldn't be surprised if Waller decides to get in the face of Apollo Crews. That is the much likely scenario I could see. So we'll see what happens then, but right now I believe we should move on to our last segment. This is our last review, so let's move on with news updates. Okay, July 17th, it's been announced for on that particular day. 2 events are taking place on that very day. First one, LA Fights Volume 5. I'm excited. First match has been announced is Titus Alexander versus Jaya Vidal. But however, the other event taking place on that day is going to be Violence and Suffering for, I believe the event's called Coast to Coast. I'm kind of excited. No announcements on who's going to be participating, what matches will be booked. Moving on. Lucha Libre Online has reported about Raquel Rodriguez, or as we knew her, Raquel Gonzalez. Now, we all know from many times throughout WWE's history, when you get called up from the NXT brand, they expect you to change your name, your look, your gimmick on many occasions. But Raquel Gonzalez was one that we felt like, why did they change her name? But she explained that she was a bit more disappointed that they wanted her to change her last name. You see, Gonzalez is really her name, her real life name, and that is the name of her dad. It's totally understandable, because that's something you want to keep the family lineage alive. But she was okay with the fact that they gave her another Hispanic name, which was Rodriguez. Ironically, that's my last name. No relations with her, in case you guys wondering. But that's always been the case with WWE, changing the name. If it's the first name or last name or the whole name, I don't know. Now, for all you Alwayz Ready fans who have been watching Alwayz Ready tearing it up in the independents and most likely GCW, well, he makes his return to GCW for 2 events, one in LA on the 15th of July and the other on the 17th in San Francisco. I'm excited for him to make his return. As you know, he brought out some great attention in Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors, so we'll see what else he's going to do. And hopefully he goes back to Japan. Many fans would like to see him again. Now, for our upcoming House of Glory event, we have Judas, and one particular match has been booked, and this one is for the Crown Jewel Championship between the Root of All Evil and our current champion, Charles Mason, taking on Homicide. So that's going to be a very interesting match to watch. Now, our last update here. This was mentioned before. I don't remember, was it Ian Riccaboni or was it Kevin Kelly? That New Japan Strong should have a somewhat tag team title championship in Strong. Well, ask and they shall deliver. We're getting that. So it's been announced on the New Japan of America Twitter page that we are going to have a tournament for that particular, for the tag team titles. I think this is going to be good. We may see guys from the Bullet Club, as you know, Bullet Club making their way, possibly House of the United Empire, whoever's going to be there. Most likely, the one team that definitely wants to have those titles is going to be the Team Filthy. That is one clear clue right there for me. But we'll see what happens. Well, I messed up. I thought this was the last update, but this one is going to kill everyone. Looks like the saga continues once again. It's just been reported on the Wrestling Observer. We're expecting more releases from WWE. Now, I know some of you are saying we thought we surpassed it, but of course, do some information saying that WWE are now expecting them to build up their characters in 90 days. To me, that's like too short. It takes time, but it looks like that's they're gonna start releasing people soon. It's still unclear when, or it's still unclear who, but we will find out hopefully sooner and rather than later. But we'll keep an eye on that. So I think that's pretty much it. What we got right now. I believe it's time to call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, we got the return of Choco Pro number 233. I'm excited. The Killer Queens are back. We're talking about Emi Sakura teaming up once again with her protege and student, Mace Shiruga. I'm excited for that. And of course, we cannot forget AEW Dynamite. I'm excited. Now, if there's any other events I'm going to plan to put in, I'll try, but we'll just see what happens then. But if there's any news updates I'm planning to put out, I'll put those out soon enough. And I'm still waiting on watching the Stardom events, because the one match I definitely want to see is Colors versus the Cosmic Angels. That you got to take patience with, because I want to analyze certain things that kind of popped out before I ever watched it. But you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.